Hello everyone and welcome to our Shadowlands pre-patch leveling guide. This is a 1 to 50 guide, which means that even once Shadowlands comes out, this is still going to be the relevant thing to do. So, I started a Lightforged Draenei, and 6 hours and 30 minutes later, it was at max level. And I wasn't even using the 10% experience potion that I could have. So once you remove AFK time and eating time, my leveling time was more like 6 hours. If you then add in the potion on top of that would have been 10%, yeah, I mean, that's pretty quick. Now, sure, it was an allied race character that did start at level 10, but hey, when levels 10 through 15 were gained at about, 3 to 5 minutes per level, you can be pretty sure that the first 10 levels are easy. In fact, to work that out, I started up a fresh level 1 character, and I hit level 10 in 35 minutes, doing Elwyn Forest slightly in the wrong order. And do remember that 1 through 10 in Shadowlands is equivalent to levels 1 through 24, pre-level squish. So yes, leveling is fast, and in today's video, I'm going to help you get the most out of it. Because yes, if you want that new max level character for Shadowlands, this is the time. But also, leveling is not just in-game, it's also through today's sponsor, Skillshare, where I've got a really awesome thing to show you, and where, for a limited time, you will get a trial via the link below, and after that, it's just $10 a month. Now, with that, you've got to hit up the new Productivity Masterclass from Ali Abdal. The dude is a wizard. It's a bit ridiculous. He exploded on YouTube last year. You've probably seen him about. And yeah, I mean, he's just casually, doctor via Oxford Medicine, also doing a bunch of businesses and his YouTube. So you know he's a productive guy. He is the guy to make a productivity masterclass. It's a really well-made series. He can walk the walk, and the topic breakdown and all that is particularly great, very actionable. And I mean, as for me, I even switched my note-taking app and a whole bunch of process stuff from him. It's really helped me out a lot, which, by the way, is actually helping you guys in terms of the videos you're getting. So it really is worth your time. You'll be able to watch it for free with a 2-month trial via the link down below, and after that, it's just $10 a month. So a big thanks to Skillshare for helping our team and being a great partner, and with that, let's get into the video. Let's begin with what has changed. Leveling is totally different in Shadowlands, and before we throw you the special tactics and techniques, you've got to understand how leveling actually now works in WoW, because basically the whole thing is different. So, the level squish means that the level cap of World of Warcraft is 60. Well, it will be 60 when Shadowlands releases, and level 50 is the equivalent to Battle for Azeroth's cap of level 120. Now, moving past the numerical squish, Blizzard have also revamped much of the leveling. Let's start off with starting levels. So, allied races, they will start off at level 10. Then Demon Hunters and DKs on PTR start off at level 8. Now, the thing is, that's proportionately lower than they would have previously, especially for the Demon Hunters. Additionally, and very relevant to leveling, is mount levels. You can get your 60% ground speed at level 10, you can then get 100% ground speed at level 20, then 150% flight speed at level 30, and 310 flight speed at level 40. You might be wondering, where is 280% speed gone? Well, it turns out Blizzard have actually removed that, and if you were only at 280% flight speed beforehand, you'll just be default at 310 now. Okay, let's talk about new players. Exile's Reach is the new intro experience of World of Warcraft. Newbies will find themselves away on a mission, totally unaware that the War of Thorns and Battle of the Undercity are happening at about the same time. And then, after Exile's Reach has been finished, the new players will join their faction on Kulturas or Zandalar, and they will level up to level 50 in the content of the Battle for Azeroth expansion. However, for the experienced players, it is a bit different. When you make a character, you can choose between Exile's Reach or your character's usual 1 through 10 starter zone. And then once you hit level 10, you'll be guided towards Chromie, who will introduce you to the Chromie time system. And this system is the core of the leveling revamp. And in reality, all that Chromie time is just a narrative framing device to explain how each expansion sort of happens in a different period of time, and it sort of covers Blizzard's redesign of that intended questing experience. And what that essentially means is that each expansion will provide you with enough experience to get from level 10 all the way up to level 50. I would actually say more than enough experience. It really is quite easy to cap. Of course, Blizzard haven't just changed the numbers that are displayed to be smaller and leave it be the same. No, what's actually more here is that between quest XP that's given to you and the amount of XP that is actually needed to level, the overall leveling time has been significantly reduced, as you'll know from the top of this video. moving on with changes, we have to talk about heirlooms. These items no longer provide you with a direct experience bonus, but even with that, they are extremely useful because they can be enchanted, and those enchants will of course stay for the entire of your leveling, and then also the new set bonus. Let's cover that. The 2 set causes rested XP to be consumed 30% slower. Then the 4 set increases your out of combat regen. The 5 set grants you a massive 40% primary stat buff whenever you ding. Now it lasts for 2 minutes, but defeating enemies will extend its duration up to another 2 minutes. That's 4 minutes of being quite a bit more powerful. Then the 6 set causes rested XP to be consumed another 30% slower. And that's pretty big. Now, weapons and trinkets do not count towards this set, but they are, of course, quite useful to have. And while the ring is a bit harder to get, the necklace isn't, so you should be able to get that full set easily. Now, overall, with the full set, this actually means you have 60% reduced rested XP consumption. Now, rested XP currently lasts for 2 levels once it's generated, but with this, it lasts for, beyond 3. That's actually pretty damn good. And because of this, you need to make sure that any characters that you want to level are actually created and are left in a resting zone, like say an inn, at absolutely all times. That really will make the most out of the heirloom set that you have. Now, if you're leveling all in one sitting, this won't matter, but if you just want to level 20, 30, maybe an hour at a time, then yeah, this will be very useful. So yes, whenever you log out, ensure you're doing it at a rested XP zone. It absolutely will be worth it because the heirlooms make rested XP contribute a lot more to your leveling time than you'd think. Then beyond this, heirlooms will always scale with your level, and they'll be strong for your level, the equivalent of a blue drop. Now, this is extremely important if you plan to level through Warlords of Draenor, which is what I would suggest you do, and quite soon you'll see why. Now, another big thing about the heirlooms is they can be enchanted. And those enchants scale for your entire 1 through 50 leveling process. And believe me, especially at the low levels, the enchants just demolish mobs. So for most DPS classes, which is probably how you're leveling, you'll want Hidden Satyr on the neck, you will want Primary Stat in your cloak, Glorious Stats in your chest, Elemental Force for your weapon, and a Mop Shoulder inscription, isn't it, with your best stat, and then a Ring Enchantment for your best secondary stat. We'll have a table showing you that stuff. So that's what you'll want. And then, by the way, if you have the Garrosh weapon heirlooms, which Matt tested, I'm on her team, he got that and he put sockets in it and absolutely demolished things. So that's super powerful. Warmode is another relevant thing here. It still does exist in Shadowlands, and it will, at a minimum, give you an extra 10% experience boost from all sources. Now, that can scale up to 30% XP boost, depending on the faction balance. Now, this is good if you're not being killed constantly, and Blizzard designed this basically with the 30% maximum, kind of making up for the fact that you would have to deal with PvP while you're leveling. But generally, I've found that it works out okay. And the reason there is that most leveling players have turned on war mode because they want the extra XP, even if they are on the enemy faction. And I've generally found that, yeah, people basically just aren't doing PvP while they're leveling, even when they are hostile towards each other. Of course, your mileage may vary. There might be a max level character just killing noobs. That could happen. And yeah, for that, you unlock War Mode at level 20, and you should just go to your faction city and unlock that. So Stormwind or Orgrimmar. Now, War Mode also gives you access to your PvP talents. These, of course, can be used in the open world against regular mobs, and for some specs, it can be a pretty strong survivability and DPS increase. Okay, let's talk about the very basics of leveling up fast here. We recommend Warlords of Draenor, right? So it's good because it's got a pretty high density of quests. They're generally laid out in an efficient manner, and there's a whole host of bonus objectives across all of the zones, and those reward XP very generously. Treasures used to be worth a lot of XP whenever they were discovered, but that's actually been nerfed since BFA. It was actually nerfed in the Shadowlands beta. Now that's a bit sad, but it does make a lot of sense because the old treasure leveling would have been broken as hell with 1 through 50. But still, Warlords of Draenor has got lots of bonus objectives and they make incredible XP. Now, flying, of course, really does speed things up, and this brings me to another great part. As of the pre-patch, Warlords of Draenor flying is actually unlocked by default for all characters. You don't need the Pathfinder achievement anymore, and that does mean that all players will be able to level up here quite quickly using flying. Alright, with the basics covered, let's just talk about when I was trying to go a bit more tryhard. So, heading to Draenor and just defaulting your way through the quest flow actually will get you level up pretty fast, but there are some other things that you should consider when it comes to leveling. So, let's talk about the more tryhard things. Items. The Draft of 10 lands, okay? This is the only working experience potion in Shadowlands. This works from levels 1 through to 50, and it increases XP by 10% for 1 hour whenever it's used. Now, this is obtained with service medals. Those are the Warfront currency from the BFA expansion. And look, if you've been playing BFA, you probably have loads of them, so if you've got a bunch spare, you may as well just get a whole bunch of Drafts of 10 lands and throw them to your characters. Now, in the past for this, I would have recommended things like the XP banners, but it's a very paltry amount of XP that only applies to mobs. They were previously only really great because they applied to treasures, but now the treasures have been nerfed, I would not really bother. Next up, mobility items. So, Goblin Gliders are pretty damn good for getting around quickly. They're just a nice option to have in the lower levels before you've got flight, but to be honest, unless you are like doing speedrunning almost competitively and trying to nail a perfect pre-made run, you're not going to need them that much. Then moving on for potions, there's Sky Step, Lightfoot, and Draining Swiftness potions. Those are all pretty handy for the move speed, though, of course, as of Shadowlands, they will stop working at level 50. But still, I've always liked to fill my bags up with these, and just times when you're stuck in a cave, you've got no movement CDs, yeah, use that. Then also mount equipment, that is generally worth considering, I would say. Certainly for Shadowlands 50 through 60 leveling, where you should go for the 20% move speed. But the thing is that since mount equipment is unlocked at level 40, and this is a 1 through 50 guide, by the time that happens, you already have flying mounts. So yeah, you may as well use it, but it's not going to be super key. Next, I want to talk quickly about add-ons. They are potentially very important. So, Azeroth Autopilot will give you a fantastically efficient leveling route, and it is recommended for its great pathing and its ability to reduce human error. Now, I was not able to fully avail of it because when I was doing my runs, it was the beta version of Azeroth Autopilot that did not have updated Warlords of Draenor routes. Basically, I kind of like ported the routes from the live version into the beta version of that. It doesn't matter for you, so it wasn't really great for Shadowmoon Valley, but whenever I went to the old Gorgron route, that actually was a really, really good route, and I just used the console command /AAP skip to skip any treasure-related steps that were in the path. So while this was not ideal for me, of course, leveling up on the PTR, by the time this hits live, and certainly I'd hope in the weeks after that, yeah, the add-on probably will be updated, so if you want those very, very efficient routes, then AAP is basically the thing to do. Now, Leatrix Plus is another add-on that I'd really recommend, and the core reason there is it does do all the things like automatically selling junk and stuff like that, but its fast loot and auto quest pickup functions and turn-in functions, they are, I think, the best. Like, the loot, like fast loot for Leatrix Plus is insanely quick. The game feels like so slow without it. I totally recommend Leatrix Plus. Okay, with that covered, let's talk about routes. So, if Azeroth Autopilot's Warlords of Draenor path is updated by the time pre-patch comes out and you're doing this video, just follow that. It's great. Now, I was not really that optimal, and I still got 6 hours, and I think 6 hours is a time that just about anyone would be happy with, going 10 through 50, and yeah, add about another 30 minutes in for 1 through 10. So I started Warlords of Draenor, and while the intro scenario is not ideal, I've done it a lot, know it by the back, like the back of my hand, and I was still getting levels in less than 5 minutes each going through that. Now, on the PTR, Azeroth Autopilot's Shadowmoon Valley route was the old one, the very treasure-focused one, which of course has since been nerfed. So I followed that for a bit, but probably didn't do things ideally. Now, what I'd recommend there is just doing the core Shadowmoon Valley quests and doing all of the bonus objectives in the zone, but of course stopping before you confront Ner'zhul, because I'd really say that while you're doing the bombing run and the battle for Shattrath, your XP per hour is really not that good. So, by the time I was done with that zone, I headed over to Gorgrond, and I just used the old Azeroth Autopilot path. And yes, the outdated route is still great. Now, if you don't use AAP, then it's pretty simple. Just select the Sparring Pit building when you actually do get to, to build your base. That gives you basically the faster quests, and it spawns bonus objectives that are really, really densely packed and easy to do. So with that, look, it's so good, and very soon into Gorgrond, you'll find yourself a flight as well, and flight really speeds things up. So I just did actually the regular questing in Gorgrond, and it was mega efficient. It was so fast. I mean, there was times I was, still like at level in the 30s or 40s, getting like 3, 4, 5 minutes a level. It was so quick. So yeah, I just stayed in Gorgrond for the entire zone, did all the bonus objectives. The only exception for me is the final scenario. I would not recommend doing that because it just offers terrible XP. It gives you like 2000 XP and it just takes a whole bunch of flight time, and it's just not worth doing. Now, from there, I flew down to Talador. I did the initial quest to open up the base, I selected the artillery building option, and then I picked up the 3-player kill quests. So I did that, and then from there, I did the initial set of quests with Vindicator, Murad and Co., killing the Iron Horde guys, and the two of those wanted quests, right? It's like to kill a bird and to kill something else. And then I handed the whole lot of them in. I then did all of the bonus objectives of Talador. Now, this is where it gets a little bit weird, and I hope this doesn't make it live, because basically there was an issue where Talador wasn't scaling correctly. I was finding it was actually giving me way lower XP for quests than, in some cases, both Gorgrond and Spires of Iraq, so that was really weird. Anyway, next, I went to Spires, and basically in Spires, I just did the regular questing up until the point where you get the breadcrumb quest to establish your main base, the Stockton Brewery, or whatever's there. I think there's like brewery and one more. So I went to there, and then I just did all of the bonus objectives in that zone. To be completely honest with you though, those bonus objectives definitely are a bit longer than most, especially the Shattered Hand and the Pale Orc ones. Especially for the Pale Orc ones, I'd hope you've done that one before because you're just poking around a lot of holes in the area. But still, by this stage, it was like 5 and a bit hours in, and I was around level 46. That's pretty damn good, right? And as you probably can hear, like, this was not the most optimal route ever, and that's actually something that I think is good, because if this is a case where I get an amazing leveling time because I've entirely, like, from rote memory, like, got, every single quest in the perfect order, then that's not going to be a realistic questing route for you to do unless you are very interested in hardcore speed leveling. So I think it's pretty heartening that even not doing things terribly efficiently, I'm still getting these super fast times, because that means that anyone can do it. So I went to Nagrand, and I just got the breadcrumb quest. I smashed out the initial set of quests to establish my base, and then I did all 3 bonus objectives in that zone. By that stage, I was level 48. Now, I could have continued leveling there, and I actually think that would have been faster, but on a hunch, I just decided for the Bants to go to Red Ridge Mountain, and sure, I was fighting these high-level Red Ridge Mountain mobs because of the scaling, but they had barely any mechanics, and they were so easy to kill. And while Red Ridge is actually a bit slow to start, it really did get fast once I actually got going. I mean, hey, getting from level 49 to 50 in 10 to 15 minutes, that's not too bad, but it probably would have been faster to have just continued questing in Spires or Nagrand. So overall, it was a pretty wild time. I mean, being in the 30s and dinging with like 3 minutes flat time is an insane, it's just wild as compared to how things were in the past. I mean, you'd do a bonus objective and you'd be like 60%, 70% in the next level with a slash played of, 10 seconds. So overall, I did a few technique experiments on how I did this in Shadowmoon, in Gorgrond, and the rest of WoD. I did a few technique experiments, and overall, I got to cap in 6 hours 30 slash played. Now, around 6 of those hours were actually spent leveling, and if I had the Draft of 10 lands on that character, it would have knocked 10% off that time, which would have gotten me down to, 5 hours and 24 minutes. That's so fast compared to now. That 5.5 hours, anyone could do that. I really do think that, well, as long as you're an experienced player, new players, etc., won't be able to do that. But if you're the type of player who is watching this video because you want high-level characters, you'll be able to do it in 5.5, 6 hours, no sweat. So yeah, I mean, at this speed, the paid leveling boost really just is a bit harder to justify, I've got to say. Finally though, I do want to talk about my utterly cursed PTR run. So in this run, broken scaling lost me hours. The character hit level 50 in 9.5 hours slash played. Now take out the AFK time, and that was probably more like, 8.5, 9 hours actually leveling. But the thing is, I was hungover as hell, and about 2 hours into the run, I ate a chicken burger the size of my head, along with some chips. So I was hungover, and I had a food coma. That was a near worst case scenario, and that's actually why I'm bringing it up to you. Worst case scenario. I found that my heirlooms stopped scaling at level 29, but only after I sold all the gear that I got from quests, meaning I was like level 38 and I had terrible gear in my character. Like my item level was way lower than my character's level. It was a big mess. Now, then I went to Talador and I noticed the Talador quests were dropping less XP than the Gorgrond ones, which is something I kind of then confirmed in my later run. Now, these things really slowed me down, especially the mob kill times, which got a bit excruciating. But still, that character, without the potion, capped in like I'd say 8.5 hours of actively leveling. And an 8.5 hour questing run would be considered insanely fast right now. And the reason I bring up my doomed run is because it kind of proves a point that it's just bloody fast at the fundamentals. My worst run was like 8.5 hours spent leveling. My best was about 6, would have been 5 hours, 24 minutes if I used the potion. Mephisto, like king of leveling, god of leveling, he got, I think, about 4 hours when he was using an XP potion and the 5% XP gem. That gem has since been removed from the game. It's now swim speed, which I'm sure people are thrilled about. But that does show you that, I mean, it's so fast now. It really is incredible. So if you want a new character, then pre-patch is the time to do it. Then, of course, once you hit max level, you can head over to Northrend and you can use the pre-patch event to get yourself with a full set of item level 100 gear, which will actually be higher than the gear that drops in Bastion, the first leveling zone of Shadowlands, which will mean that your new character will be in a great place to just get stuck into things. So there you go. That's my leveling experience. It's about 15, 20 hours of me doing things, probably about 20 minutes of you watching this, and hopefully that will mean that we can all get characters nice and quick. So there you go. Hope you found it useful. Good luck leveling, and with that, I'll see you next time.